Let's welcome Dave Zangaro. I call him a seasoned journalist. Has covered the Philadelphia Eagles now for more than a decade. And how many of you watch the Eagles Eye podcast? Okay, or listen to it. Watch, listen. Okay, so we've got a handful of people out there. We'll talk about that today. Started out as a staff writer for the Burlington County Times and got his bachelor's degree here from Rowan University in journalism. All right, so let's first start off, Dave, with the last time you were on Rowan's campus.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Probably
like a while?
12, 13 years, something like that. So it's crazy different. I mean, driving by down 322 is a pretty wild experience.
So you haven't seen Rowan Boulevard?
No.
Have you seen Rowan Boulevard? You didn't see it on this trip?
I mean, I drove by just a little bit. I came from like Delsey Drive.
Okay.
So I saw a little bit of it.
Okay, so it's a game changer for this university.
It's
crazy.
unbelievable.
How has this university changed in your mind from 15 years ago when you were here graduating?
I mean, it's bigger and it's good for me. It makes my degree look better and better each year. It keeps getting built up, but yeah, it's really cool to see. I drove around a little bit, like where I used to live, just to check it out. But yeah, I don't come down here very often, but it looks pretty cool.
Well, I tell these students all the time that their degree in 5-10 years will be better than what it is today.
Yeah.
You're experiencing that. And we didn't have the sports communication media program when you were here, obviously, but when they go on and get jobs and go into the workplace, their degree is going to be that much more impressive down the road.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the video I just showed.
Sure.
So take me through that scenario. What went on there?
Yeah, so there's actually something new we've been doing this year is right before I go in the locker room, we have a live shot up. I have a live hit from the tunnel. So kind of only the fourth or fifth time we've done that so far. And it's kind of a hectic scene at all times. And then I see that guy getting walked by and I'm thinking, all right, we got to get it like out of the way. Then he dropped that on me, which was cool. And I've spoken with him since then. He didn't get charged with anything. He got free to go, so he's not digging it.
Wow, we're breaking news here.
But an Eagle Eye listener, so our podcast, which is, I was telling you about this, like the amount of people who know me from the podcast is so much more than I ever thought, and it's like, it's disproportionate to everything else I do, which at first surprised me, but the more you think about what a podcast is and like how much more personal it is, like it makes a lot of sense.
That is fascinating. The Eagle Eye podcast, which is on streaming everywhere, normal where you get your podcast.
Any podcast.
And then also on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more on the podcast side or on YouTube, or is it equal?
It's about equal.
Wow.
In terms of the hits it gets, yeah. And then there are clips that come off of it. Obviously that one kind of skews the numbers a little bit, but it really successful, and just like the nature of it is, you figure if someone listens to a podcast, and our podcast is basically 3 hours a week, like that's a lot of listening to me, and it becomes more conversational. So you end up like, I'm going to the dentist today, right? And I talk about it, and then someone knows that about me, and you feel like you know the person as opposed to just kind of a talking head on TV or reading words on a screen. Like people feel like they know you more when I listen to your podcast.
How many of you are interested in being a sports journalist, like being a writer, journalist? Okay, so you see a large number out there. Mm-hmm. Being a sports journalist today is vastly different than being a sports journalist back when you started in 2010. Mm-hmm. Tell us the difference.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it was different for me in 2010 than it was for people in 2000. It's a constantly evolving thing. So when I got started, newspapers were still hanging on a little bit more. So that was the avenue I ended up working in a little bit. And I did diversify, right? So I was working for then CSN Philly. I was working for Burlington County Times, stringing for some newspapers. So that was my avenue. That I started off, I wanted to cover sports. And the easiest way for me to do that was to cover high school sports for those newspapers. They gave me the chance to do it, and I did it. And right now that avenue really isn't there, right? Because the newspapers aren't paying people to do that. They might not even have departments or those papers have closed, but there are different avenues, right? Like there are different ways. There are websites that pop up. There are blogs that pop up. It just evolves, and you just got to figure out whatever it is at that point in time is your best avenue. For me, at the time, it was, hey, I'll go cover this high school game, pay me $30 or whatever it was. I think there are just different opportunities for people.
You are truly a multimedia journalist. You're on audio,
Mm-hmm.
you're on video, you're not print but website writing.
Mm-hmm.
So you are doing all three of those parts of the media.
Yeah, it's and honestly, it's like more out of necessity than anything. I didn't get into this to say that I was going to do all these things. Like doing TV to me is, I never planned on being on TV. That was never a goal of mine. But it ended up, I worked for a company that is a TV station, and I got the reps at it. And then you end up finding new challenges and things too. So, I get to host some TV shows now. I get to read prompter. Like that's something I never even thought about doing. I didn't realize how hard that was and the different skills involved with it. But it's also what keeps it fun, because if you're doing the same thing, you might get better at it. Like you're going to get better at whatever you're doing over and over again, but you want to find new challenges too. So that's where some of those other things have kind of helped me just to still like it as much as I do, just to do different things.
All right. They have plenty of questions, so we'll let the students ask questions. Who would like to go first? Go ahead, Ian.
Honestly, I just had to ask the big question. How did you keep a straight face during that whole thing?
Yeah, I was more surprised about it more than anything. Like I didn't expect that, and whenever there are police around, I'm going to be like quiet and respectful. I'm going to let them do their thing, and I didn't think about him like saying something there. And then what you saw when I did smile was my realization of what a wild Philly moment. Like that's only happens in this city, right? It reminded me actually, there was a clip on local news like 10 years ago where the guy's getting arrested and the reporter, any words? And he says, "Go Eagles." And like in that moment, I was like, oh, that's what just happened to me. Yeah. I laughed about it plenty after that. And then I told our newsroom, like, hey, this is on the camera. You got to check this out. It was kind of a solemn night in the newsroom. The Eagles just got killed. Phillies got knocked out of the playoffs in the worst way possible. And everyone got a good laugh out of it.
And the fact that he DM'd you.
I've spoken to him since then. He reached out.
You gonna have dinner with him?
I don't think we'll probably do that,
okay.
but I am happy to know he's a happy listener
and a Birds fan. Right?
Everything worked out well.
Did he do an EAGLES on his way out, or
nothing else?
No, nothing else.
He did actually stop. He also said kind words to Zach Berman, who works for The Athletic. So he's a fan of not just me, but a lot of my fellow beats.
He's a rabid follower of the Birds and all the scribes that work that beat. All right, very good. All right, go ahead, Leo.
So, it's kind of contrary to what Neil's question was. What is similar about what you do in the past 10 years? What has allowed you to kind of, what skills or what lessons have you learned that have allowed you to stay the course that you want or be able to adapt?
Sure. Well, I think some things don't change. And, like, this is going to sound really hokey, but, like, showing up. I show up to everything that I cover. So, like, I don't miss games. I don't miss practice. If there's anything that team is doing, I'm going to be there. And the team knows that, and they're probably annoyed by that at times. But this is really hokey too. But this is what cover Nick Sirianni. Some of his hokiness is rubbing off on me. But he always tells his players, like, master the things that take no effort. It's a really good lesson, not just in playing football, but like anything you do. Like, I might not be the best writer, I might not be the best on TV, but I'm going to be there, and I'm going to just work my ass off as much as I can. So I've done that really my entire career, and if nothing else, you give yourself the best chance you possibly can.
Thank you.
Good.
So what was like the biggest transition you had from being in like the Burlington press and then onto the NFL? Like, what was the biggest differences and stuff like that, or like what's the discussion?
Yeah, it's different covering like local sports versus the NFL, just in terms of access. You cover high school sports and everyone wants to talk to you. You cover the NFL and the locker room's pretty empty today after a loss. But the first time I covered the NFL was in 2011. There was a lockout. So they were like working out at just some field a bunch of players were getting together, and I told Andy Schwartz, who was our editor back at CSN Philly back in the day, like, hey, let me go cover this. It's in my town. That was a good launch for me because it wasn't in the structure of an NFL locker room, an NFL stadium. It was just like, these are just guys on a football field. I don't care if that's Michael Vick or whoever it was. They're just guys on the field. So that was a nice way to kind of get into it. And ultimately, like, whether you're talking to a high school athlete or an NFL athlete, some of the same things hold true. Like, you want to make someone feel comfortable talking to you, because if they're comfortable talking to you, they'll give you better answers. If they trust you, they'll give you better answers. It's not any different. It's a little different in terms of how many people are covering a team, right? Like, the Eagles beat is the most crowded in the NFL, probably in American sports. There's just a lot of people there, so it's tough to distinguish yourself. But I think a lot of the things that you would do covering, whatever high school football team, kind of do hold true for covering an NFL team.
All right, ready? In the back.
Dave, earlier you said that today you went to visit your old dorm that you used to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
What are some noticeable changes that you saw during your trip down memory lane compared to when you first started attending here?
Yeah, it's a lot. I actually never lived on campus. I lived at Park Crest, the apartments on High Street, and I was only here for 2 years actually. So I went to community college. I was kind of in and out of here, but yeah, it's the things that I was thinking about were just, obviously it's changed a lot, but just good times with my friends. Like, I lived with two buddies in that apartment who I'm still really close with. Just was in one of their weddings like a few months ago. So yeah, I wasn't honestly thinking about work today. I was thinking about just hanging out with my buddies back at the apartment.
So you interned with Comcast Sportsnet, which is now NBC Sports Philadelphia, when you were here at Rowan?
Yeah, I was a senior, I guess. I had 2 internships my senior year. The first one was fall of 2009 with CSN Philly. In the spring, I was with the Vineland Daily Journal and covered high school sports with them. But when I interned at CSN Philly, it was the World Series around in 2009. So kind of like what I was saying, like, show up and just be there. They had to like kick me out, like, because we were there, 2, 3 in the morning, and they were like, "You can go home." No, I want to be here. I've waited a long time to be here, so I just worked hard. And then when a part-time gig became available after I graduated, they were happy to hire me, and I worked part-time there for like 2 years before I got a full-time gig.
So he left Philadelphia, where have you been here your whole life?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And you took a leap of faith.
Yeah.
Tell him what you did.
Yeah, so for 2 years after I graduated, I was working for CSN Philly, and I was also working for the Burlington County Times. And I was kind of wearing myself a little thin, because there were 2 part-time jobs, but not really. They were basically like 2 full-time jobs, the way I was working them. So you figure like 35 hours at each. It was a lot. And I was at the point where I don't know how long I can actually do this and make this work. I wasn't making a lot of money, but it was okay for right then. And then Comcast Sportsnet Houston opened up, and they had a position available, and that wasn't for much money either, but it was more than what I was making, and it was a full-time gig. So I said, okay, I'll take this. And I went down there for 2 years, and that was the first time I really got to. I'd covered some NFL when I was in Philly, but going down there, and they didn't hire me, by the way, to cover the Houston Texans. I got there, realized that no one was really covering them at our place, and said, well, I'll do that. And I just kind of pushed my way in there and started doing it, which, there's always a fine line when you're trying to figure out how aggressive and assertive you want to be with what you're doing versus annoying the people who can give you that power. So I just pushed gently until they let me do it, and then I was basically full-time on that beat for 2 years. That whole place shut down. I got laid off, came back here, and then it was probably about 5 or 6 months until I got hired full-time by NBC Sports Philadelphia.
How about that? All the way in the back.
No matter how big or how small the event is, how do you know it's worth having?
Well, in terms of what I do, anything that the NFL holds, that the Eagles are there, I cover. So that's like practice every day. That's every press conference. That's every game, every preseason game, every training camp practice. Very proud that I've never missed a training camp practice in 10 years. So all those things go without saying for me. After that, it's kind of it depends on the situation. So it's I go to the combine every year. I think that's important in terms of networking. Senior Bowl sometimes is important. It kind of just depends on where the team is at that point in time. But I always kind of err on the side of going to things if I can.
Go ahead, Ian.
So you kind of talked about how you made the leap of faith. You kind of like shot yourself up the career path. What would be your biggest advice for kind of balancing both being ambitious with your goals and kind of staying grounded and appreciating what you're already doing?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's it depends on how much you like what you're doing. It starts off with that. Honestly, like I really enjoyed my 2 years when I was working 2 part-time jobs. I liked the work I was doing. It was just at a certain point I was like, I don't know how sustainable this is, like for a lifestyle. I would work all day like at the CSN office, and then I'd go and cover a high school girls basketball game. I'd like fly across the bridge to New Jersey, do that. So I'm working all day, every day, and I'm thinking, I don't know how long I can actually do this. So you have to be ready to take the jump when it's there. So I had been looking for a long time, and then that opportunity presented itself, and I had like a week to figure out if I really wanted to do it or not. And that's tough. And in the meantime, like I did get offered a different job that it would have been higher paying, it would have been more stable, but it wasn't something I really wanted to do. It was in sports media. It wasn't like covering events, which is what I wanted to do. So I turned it down, and I was lucky enough that I was in a financial situation that I could turn it down. And I kind of gambled a little bit, and it worked out. It doesn't mean it's always going to work out, but I was lucky enough to be in that spot where I could do that.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was wondering, so you got Minnesota coming up. What are you guys gonna do about AJ Brown? Is he gonna get traded?
AJ Brown's not getting traded. It's funny, that keeps coming up. They can't trade him. It would ruin their salary cap for a really long time. Maybe that's something to revisit after the season. They got to figure it out with what they have. They have a lot of talent. They just have to play better. But he's not getting traded. Not this year, at least.
What is your dealings with AJ? Just share what you think about AJ.
Yeah, so that's a good question, because I do feel like I know him on a certain level. I've been around him now for a few years, and that's why it's so helpful to show up, because he sees me every day. He knows I'm going to be fair. It doesn't mean he's always going to like what I ask or like the way I talk about him or like the things I have to say, but I build up the trust. He knows I'm going to be fair. He knows my face. He knows my name. It goes a long way. And he's someone who, different personality. He's a receiver, so he has a little diva in him. I think he'd probably admit that. But also a little misunderstood. Very conscious of what he says and where it's going to go. So he's a different kind of guy. I enjoy dealing with him. I enjoy covering him. It makes me think a lot, which I can't say the same about every player I cover, but he's a different kind of guy. And it's fun to cover personalities like that and to get to know the people, because it does really inform the way you cover them, the way you ask questions, the way I kind of know when he says something, what he's doing. Like the other day, he kind of smirked a little bit and said he didn't know what someone was talking about, that there was a meeting. I know what he's doing. He doesn't want to talk about it. That was his way to get out of it. He doesn't realize that people who don't know him take that a different way. But it's been fun covering him.
So when he puts out a tweet or says something, do you kind of think, okay, he's got something going on in his mind about how he wants to couch whatever the issue is?
Yeah, and sometimes he doesn't handle it the best way, which is true for a lot of athletes. And he's an emotional guy too. So you cover emotional players who sometimes they can't help themselves. And in a moment where he's tweeting out a Bible verse at Sunday night after a game, it's an emotional moment for him. And that's okay. You're allowed to be emotional. I think he realizes the fault in that for himself, but I enjoy covering.
Did you read the book? His book?
I have not read the book, but I remember talking to him after that game. So if you guys don't know, he had a book on the sideline, but he had the book all season. He was reading it throughout the season. And one game, the sideline camera flashes to him. He's reading the book. Everyone thinks, oh, he doesn't care. He's checked out. So we talked to him about it because it's now big news. And I remember sitting there at his locker after he was done, and he was already, this is a good insight to him actually, he was already worried about the perception of him reading the book and what that would mean for him. So he's very aware of media. He was actually a journalism major, so he's very aware of the media, and that was his worry, that like people are going to take it a certain way. And he was right. But I remember having that conversation with him after that.
Sold a lot of books for the guy.
He did. That guy made some money.
All right. Who else? Go ahead, Gerasimus.
So whenever there's like a situation where like team's struggling, like right now, 2 consecutive losses, or whether it's like the drama with AJ Brown, where do you draw the line between like criticizing the team or just actually adding positivity to the team out of your work?
Yeah, some of it is just, I'll be honest. I'm not saying I'll be honest. I'm honest with what I think, and that is something that has kind of changed in the business. Whereas, when I was first starting out, I was paid for facts. I was paid to report. The lines are a little more blurred these days. Like I'm paid for my opinion too, so I try to give my opinion, but I try to be fair, and that's like the one thing I want the team to appreciate. I want the players, the coaches to appreciate. I want the fans to appreciate. I'm going to be fair when I do have to criticize them. I'm going to do it from a place where I'm not taking pot shots. I'm not getting personal, unless there's some reason where personality plays a role. But I just want to be fair with any of that criticism. I'm going to ask tough questions, and I'm going to ruffle feathers at times. That's just a part of the gig. There have been plenty of coaches to give me dirty looks over the years, and that's okay because they know that I'm going to be fair and honest with them, and I think that goes a long way. It goes back to showing up. It's really tough to criticize, to ask a tough question if you're not there and if they don't see your face. And I also think it's really important, if I'm critical of a player, if I write something that's like critical of a player or a coach, I'm going to be there the next day, because if they have a problem with it, I want them to be able to come to me with it. I think I owe them that much.
Very good. Good, sir.
What's a journalistic habit that you wish you would have picked up on earlier in your career that now, when you're being a student journalist, you should try to work on before you go out into the real world and get a job?
Habit. It's a good question. I don't know if I have a good answer for that. Let me think about that. I'll come back to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, Connor.
So other than interviewing AJ Brown, what other players do you like to interview after games?
After games, Lane Johnson is always great. You find the 13-year vet who doesn't care that he's honest. Like, he's just going to tell you the way it is. Those guys are always great. It used to be Jason Peters back in the day. Like those veterans want to be honest, and they have no qualms about it, which is always good. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else. Jordan Mailata, very honest guy. Enjoy talking to him. And sometimes you do want to talk to AJ Brown. You want to talk to the guys who may be a little emotional about it. There's nothing wrong with being emotional. So talking to them is helpful.
You just named 3 offensive players. Anybody on the defensive side? Zach Bond?
Zach Bond's really good. I like talking to Jalen Carter. He doesn't always enjoy talking to us, which is fine. But he's insightful. And there are some of these players, too, that they go to a college and they're a little sheltered and they don't have the opportunity to talk to reporters as much. And you see that when they get in the league, and they might not be ready to do it. And sometimes it takes a little coaxing, especially for a guy like that who has to realize he's one of the better players on the team. It takes a little while sometimes.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Keegan.
A moment ago, you mentioned walking the line between sharing your opinion but also being fair. And I wanted to ask you, when you approach athletes and you have a question that might be closer to that line than you would want, but it's still a fair question, how do you go about approaching asking them?
Yeah, it depends on the person, and that's where I think it helps to know the people you're dealing with a little bit, because some players, if I have a tough question, or coach, I'll just ask it. Sometimes blunt is better. Sometimes I feel like you start to soften it too much, it loses the teeth that it needs, right? And there are some guys that are, they're going to shut down if they think you're attacking them. So you do have to massage it a little bit more and kind of give it some more runway before you ask the question. So I think there's not a blanket answer. I think it's more about knowing who the question's going to and crafting it that way.
Good, Sam.
When we talk with AJ and other players you've covered, who's the most rewarding player that you've ever covered?
Rewarding how?
Whether it's a good story or just you learn a lot.
Okay. I loved covering Malcolm Jenkins. He was someone who was grew up very differently than me, very different backgrounds, and I felt like I learned a lot from him. And he was in when he was playing here, he was unbelievable. He would sit at his locker for 20, 25 minutes. He'd be talking about cover two. He'd be talking about the blitz, and then he'd be talking about social justice. He'd be talking about the anthem demonstrations at the time. And he could just so smoothly shift back and forth to everything. I loved being around Malcolm. I feel like I learned a lot from him. It's funny to think Malcolm's my age, maybe a little younger or older than me, but it felt like he was 20 years older, right? Just because he had this wealth of knowledge, and I think he'd be successful in just about anything he put his mind to.
Very good. Good. Look.
What's an example of, you talk about people being, or appreciating that you're being fair in your coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Can you give an example of a time that somebody doesn't understand your job at all, doesn't understand and confronts you and how you deal with something like that?
Yeah, it's happened. There have been, some coaches that have yelled at me before, and I think it's important to remember that it's my job. It's their life, right? There's a lot of pressure that comes with being a pro athlete or a professional coach, and I understand that. So a lot of times you kind of let them blow off some steam, and that's okay. I'm happy to be yelled at if it makes them feel better, but I'll come back and explain okay, this is why I asked this question, or this is why I said this. You might think it's unfair, but I want to know why. And if you can get to that dialogue, I think it helps smooth it over a little bit.
Go ahead.
I don't know if Neil told you this, but this is the largest this major has ever been in history. So my question is, what is the biggest piece of advice for everyone in this room that you have to share?
So we were talking about, and I don't think this will be advice you've never heard before, but talking about multimedia and all the different things I do. I think more than just being willing to do those things, I think you got to work at those things. And it'd be one thing if they put me on TV and I sucked and I said, well, I'll never do that again. But I worked at it, right? And I got better and better at it. Same with writing or interviewing or podcasting or any of the jobs that I do. You just devote time to it and try to get better at those things. And it's not always easy, but you figure the more valuable you can make yourself to your company or prospective employer, I think it matters. So, that's kind of what I would say there. And that kind of goes back to your question about journalistic practices. It's being varied. It's being willing to learn different aspects of the profession that you might not think you're ever going to do. And I think back to my time here, I didn't take any TV classes because I was I'm never going to do that. I didn't pay much attention to it. Podcasting was not new, but it wasn't as big as it is now. So I didn't spend a lot of time working on anything audio-wise. And if I did have to go back, I'd want to be more varied. I was so focused on writing and being either a print journalist or an online journalist that I don't think I even thought about the other possibilities. And now it's I feel like that's a bigger part of my job in some ways right now.
Did that answer your question, Sarah?
Yeah.
It did. Is Eagle Eye Podcast, is that the number one Eagle podcast?
It fluctuates. There are a few of them, which kind of tells you the rabid nature of the fans. Yeah, there are some other ones that do really well. I don't know. It's tough to tell because there's so many different sources where people watch it. So we don't have, which is honestly for our sales team, it can be tough because you have different metrics from different places. It does well.
I'm going to bring in Mike Gaddy. Mike Gaddy, if you don't know, is senior supervising producer for NBC Sports Philadelphia. He's been there from pretty much the beginning. Has been with us now. You 3 years, Mike? 4 years. 4 years. But Mike oversees all our interns. The role that someone like Dave plays in a newsroom, how have you seen his role evolve over time?
Well, I mean, he brought it up already. Like, he hosts our Bird Hall show every Tuesday now. We have Eagle Eye Podcast takes over Bird Hall every Tuesday during the season. So it's him and Ruben. Instead of doing it visually, they're actually doing it's separate from the podcast, but we have them just do the whole show as a takeover to our Bird Huddle. So Dave has grown on hosting, like, and Dave has already hit on it as he's there all the time. So like I work with Dave constantly with like, hey, you're gonna be like I stopped even asking Dave if he's going to be there because I know he's gonna be there at everything. But he's grown from a TV side for us and has made himself extremely versatile so that if we need something, anything, could be like an analyst fight, could be his take on the practice, what somebody said. Like, we know Dave can do that now. And, you know, it's great to have that because he's fulfilling a variety of roles. Not just the writing side, he's doing the TV side for us. So he's hosting once a week now. He does a podcast with, is it at least 4 days a week now?
3 during the season.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's doing a lot, but like he's grown to help us, and it helps us as our product. So we're using Dave minimum 4 days a week now on television.
But it makes sense to use
and
him.
he's doing multiple, like his pregame.
Yeah.
Like what he has to do pregame for us now.
It's a lot, yeah.
Is pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean it's like he's doing like 3 hits in like in an hour span for different shows, different things. So he's got to be prepared for, you know, and our producers are telling him, hey, we're going to talk about, you know, X, Y, and Z, but he's got to be ready and prepared on top of doing his regular job. His jobs are right. So there's a lot on his plate.
But I was going to say that it also makes you that much more, I was going to say not popular, but a highly respected Eagles authority because of all the different platforms that you are presenting this information, whether it's your opinions or writing fact about what happened in the game, that type of thing.
Sure, and I think it's because not everyone's watching the same thing.
Right.
I think the TV demo who's watching Bird's Huddle is probably different than who's watching Eagle Eye. It's probably different who's reading on the site. So yeah, it does expand my reach, like personally, if you believe that like people are a brand, which I don't know if I like that term, but like it does expand my reach, and yeah, I think I grow like my following because of that.
Okay, very good. Who hasn't got? Oh, right here.
So you mentioned that you only did 2 years here at Rowan, and you said that you went to community college. My first question is, what community college did you go to? Because I'm also a transfer student from a community college.
Okay.
And also, what would your advice be to somebody like me to maximize opportunity here at Rowan in the short time I have?
Sure. I was at BCC, Burlington County College. You too. Actually, when I was there, there was a radio station, and this is another example of us just like forcing ourselves into doing stuff. We started covering high school football games, so we would have them on the radio. My buddy would do play-by-play, I would do color commentary, and then I was like, well, I'm already here, so I called the guy who was the editor at the local paper and said, well, I'll write a story from this game too, I'll double dip, I'll get paid for both, and I was doing that when I was at BCC. In terms of maximizing, you have enough time. I did. You have 2 years, so and if you want to, I don't know what like track you're on, but there are plenty of things on campus that you can do, whether it's right for the web or radio or television. Like there are those avenues, but you don't have to limit yourself to that either. I know internships really helped me, and I think like the way internships work has probably changed a little bit, but that was like, for me, that was everything. Getting my foot in the door at CSN Philly was huge. Worked at the Vineland Daily Journal, and the guy who I interned with there eventually hired me later on down the road for a little while. So, yeah, you have enough time.
Very good. Right here.
So what's like the most difficult part of like reporting with the Eagles? Like, what's the hardest thing you have to
Most difficult part of reporting the Eagles?
Honestly, it's such a crowded beat group. Like there are more people who cover the Eagles than any other team in the NFL. There's just a lot of people. So it can be tough to make your work stand out. It can be tough to find a story angle that no one is hitting. I think back there was a few years ago during COVID, which was like the worst time ever because we weren't in the locker room. You're just on Zoom calls with the same players, and it's like 20 reporters. And they had a guy named Kevon Seymour who was a defensive back. And they signed him. He had just been working at a detailing shop in Carolina, like before they hired him. It was a great story. And about 7 of us called this detailing shop to get the story. And it's like, no one wants to read the 7th story about this guy who was detailing cars, but it kind of just shows you how difficult it can be to stand out in a crowded market. So that kind of goes to your question about the biggest piece of advice. Like, once you find a job, find ways to stand out, find ways to do different things. And that's the cool thing about the Eagles beat is like everyone does kind of have a little area where they have a specialty or they have something that's like their baby in terms of like what they write or how they report. And I think that's important because you try to stand out in a crowd as much as you can.
Is there a story that you're particularly proud of? The story that you feel like you beat everybody to the punch? You got a good story out there. Got some pretty good visibility on it.
Yeah. The one I always go back to was in 2015. It was right after I started full time, so it's the one that kind of resonates with me most. Brandon Graham had been with the team for 5 years, and he was starting to turn the corner and be like a starting player, a fan favorite a little bit at that time. But no one had ever really done like a deep dive into his upbringing. So the Eagles were going to Detroit on Thanksgiving. He's from Detroit. So I kind of had, I think I sat down with him for like over an hour to talk to everyone from his life and was able to have a Thanksgiving Day story about Brandon Graham. Now, they got slaughtered in that game. It was a really bad loss, but that was one I was proud of because he had been here and everyone had the opportunity to do that story and they had it done.
One of the really great guys is Brandon Graham.
One of the best.
One of the best, but started out horribly.
Yeah, which is, someone asked me, like, the person I enjoyed covering most. He's another one, just in terms of, like, not even professionally, but I feel like I learned a lot just as a person from Brandon Graham, like what it takes to persevere and to get over things and to smile while you do it. And he had every right to be mad at the world, and he never was. He was just always very, very happy about it. So I feel like I learned a lot from BG.
Perfect. All right. Right there.
So Dave, I was just going to say you've been in journalism for about 15 years now, and you came in at the tail end of the print media days. Are there any qualities or any tidbits from the print media era that you miss in today's age of journalism?
Yeah. I miss natural editing because you have to fit space. I think a lot of people, when they write online, think it can be long. You have infinite space. It's not always the best way to do things. I think that, and sometimes I'm guilty of it. I'll go long for no reason because no one's there to stop me. I think I'm like rebelling against my editors from when I was like 24. But sometimes it's like there's something about being brief that's good. And if you can accomplish the same thing in 500 words as you can in 1,000, don't write 1,000 words. Like there's no reason to do that. So I think that some of the stuff I read now from online journalists is long for no reason. If it's long, it's good and there's the meat is there. That's fine. But sometimes I read things that I think could be a lot shorter, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Very good. Where are we going? Go ahead, Lana.
What motivated you to get into podcasting?
So it was really funny when we started our podcast. We had 2 Eagles podcasts, and I wasn't on any of them. We had at the time it was Rube Knows, which was just Reuben Frank talking by himself for God knows how long, and it was it was a lot. And the other one, Mike, do you remember the name of the other one with Gunner and Barrett?
Yeah.
It might have been like
Derek Jones and Barrett Brooks had a podcast.
Yeah. So I would like fill in on those, and then I remember being like, why am I not on one of these podcasts? Then I was working with Rube every day covering the team, so I figured, well, this is a natural marriage here. And it's been really good too because we're very different personality-wise, so it's become like a fun dynamic, and I'm able to kind of rein him in because he's kind of stat-driven and everything's all over, and I'm kind of able to lasso him and bring him back in.
Where does Reuben Frank get all his stats from? It's amazing.
He's
the
good
game
at it.
ends and he's got bing, 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 all these records
I
that
have a
were broken.
little bit of that in me, not to that level. A lot of them come from Pro Football Reference has a subscription site called StatHead, so you can do a lot of the like basic stats, but check for last time this happened or a streak, and he knows exactly how to get out of that site what he needs, and I'm okay at it. I find some things here and there. I'm a little more judicious, I think, with what I look up, but yeah, he's excellent at it.
Yeah, does a really good job with it. All right, go ahead.
How do you stay motivated for like all these practices? Because I know, podcasting, doing TV can be a lot. So how do you keep a good work and life balance?
It's a good question. It's something I have like had to work on, honestly, because it's my nature to just go, and like it's important to carve out some time for yourself, for your family. It's also something I talk to young football players about, like rookies in the league. Like, don't burn yourself out. You need to carve out 15 minutes, even if it's 15 minutes, like watch TV or do something that's not work related. But honestly, I cover football, so it's like it's fun. I wanna go to practices, and if I can stand out by doing that, I'll do it. One of my favorite things ever. I'm very proud that I haven't missed a training camp practice. Back in, it was probably 2016, 2017, I had a buddy get married in Chicago, invites me to the wedding. I have training camp. So I cover a training camp practice. We had our old studio over there on Delaware Ave, like the old CN8 studio. So I popped over there. There was a shower in there, got a shower, flew to Chicago, got in an Uber, went to the wedding. As the wedding's starting, hang out all night, don't sleep, go to the airport, fly back to Philly, cover the training camp practice. I'm very proud of that one.
Is that good for your work-life balance?
No, definitely not.
That's a good time to bring up. No one's asked, but generally they do. A day in the life. Like, what is training camp like, and then what is it like during the season, as far as your job is concerned?
Okay, so training camp day, practice typically starts at 10 a.m. I get to the NovaCare complex. At the NovaCare complex, I have a little desk. Like all the reporters do, we have a little media house, little desk in there, so I can work from there. I drop my stuff off. I normally get out to the practice field pretty early. I'm very organized, and it's helped me a lot. I take attendance of the players every day, so I like to get out there early, start crossing them off. There's normally a press conference before practice at like 9:45. So there's a press conference. Practice starts at 10. It can go 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. After that, normally a TV hit on the field with the photographer who's there, press conferences with players, so some select coaches. Then I head back to the office. We do a podcast every day during training camp. And then if I don't have TV that night, it's just a lot of writing, and then you do it over. There's a grind in training camp that I like. Then during the season, it kind of depends on the day, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there's practice, so you get there. And they're later now than they used to be back under other head coaches, but you'll have sometimes press conferences, you'll have practice, you'll have open locker room every day, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then sometimes TV, sometimes podcasting, depending on what day it is.
But you have nothing on Tuesday with the team because that's the players are off, coaches aren't, but players are off.
No, we have, so typical Monday is a press conference virtual with the head coach. Tuesday, coordinators,
that's right.
Offensive, defensive, special teams. Wednesday, head coach, locker room, practice. Thursday, locker room practice. Friday, head coach, locker room practice.
There you go. All right. Well, we got. Go ahead, John. You haven't done yet.
How do you keep like a life-work balance throughout the season, but and also off the season?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, in the season it's tough. It just is. You're busier, but the payoff of that is there's an off season, and it doesn't completely go dead in the off season. You have, after the season ends, and it keeps getting pushed back more and more, especially when they're in the Super Bowl. There's not much of an off season. You have, but there are pockets where there's not a ton going on. Mike will tell you every July I'm not there. I just basically take July off. So there's a payoff to it, and when I'm off, I try to be off. Like, if I can, I go someplace where my phone doesn't work, and I am truly off. And I think that's important. Like, that's my trade-off for it.
Good, Leo.
So you do a lot of stuff with the Eagles. Do you use the same information in every single thing you do, or do you kind of spread that out between your different platforms that you do? Because I'm assuming you get a lot of good quotes, a lot of good information. Do you use that all in one go, or you just try to spread it out through your different platforms?
Yeah, it's a good question. It depends, I guess, on what it is. If it's an important piece of information, it's going everywhere. If I find out so and so starting on Sunday, well, that's going to go everywhere. If I have a good quote about something I'm writing, it's going in there. But sometimes I get a good quote, or I'll get a nugget from a player that it's not something I'm writing, so I'll talk about it. Sometimes I will save something for a TV hit if I know it's a topic that's coming up. I also don't like to waste things either, so I'd rather it go multiple places than for me not to find a place for it.
Thank you.
Good, Leah. Yep.
Thoughts on like artificial intelligence and how you think it's changing journalism or if it will at all?
Yeah, I don't know if I'm smart enough to answer this. It shows up. I see some like stories online. I don't know if you guys are on Facebook. Like, I'm rarely on Facebook, but like you see just like the craziest made up stories ever. And my dad calls me and says, "Why are they doing this?" And I say, "That's not true at all." So I think that artificial intelligence kind of feeds into, or it can feed into, misinformation at times. I think that's dangerous. I don't know if we've really scratched the surface on what it means for sports journalism or journalism as a whole. I'm not a fan of what Sports Illustrated was doing. Then they said they didn't know what they were doing, where there were bylines on stories that were AI created. That's not great, but I don't know where it's going to go. I think it could possibly be useful. I can tell you that professional teams are starting to see if there's a way for them to gain benefit out of AI, which they should. And a team like the Eagles, it's always trying to be on the forefront of any technology that exists. Like, yeah, they're looking at it. They're trying to figure out if there's an advantage to gain.
Do you use it at all?
I don't, no. But that's me. That's just...
Do you find that your colleagues use it?
I don't know. I don't think so, but it's not something I've talked with them about.
Very good. Okay. Good. Connor?
So, we talk about AJ Brown. What's your relationship with Jalen Hurts?
He's a tougher nut to crack. I think we have a cordial relationship. He's not. There are some players who just don't want to have that type of relationship with reporters, and I respect that. So it kind of goes back to being professional, cordial, and I will give him credit this year. He's been a lot better with reporters in general in terms of actually answering questions and being a little more forthcoming with actual answers. Like, I think that's benefited everyone so far. I won't say I have like a great relationship with him, but I don't know if anyone who covers the team does. But it's a fine relationship. Happy to talk to him whenever I see him and chat with him, but we're not best friends. Yeah.
He's really cautious what he says.
He is, and that's fine. I think that's, for a quarterback, that makes sense. I think that's a position in general where they have so much on their shoulders, they're probably going to be a little more guarded. I understand that. And it's funny, there's some quarterbacks I've covered that after they've left, I've had a better relationship with them just because the barrier is kind of removed at that point.
Okay. But you had a question.
So you use the word force a lot when you're talking about, your career and stuff like that. You say forcing your way in a lot.
Mm-hmm.
How do you dictate the line between forcing your way in and being persistent while also not wanting to be annoying and being, that guy that's kind of just nobody wants to say?
Yeah, it's not easy to figure out, and I don't think there's a perfect way to know that. I think you sometimes tread lightly, especially if you don't know the person. If you know the person, then you know what you can get away with, right? You know how much you can push, if they're going to take it, if they're going to let you do that. You don't want to be pushy, though, either. Like, you want to have some tact with it. I think it's very dependent on the individual you're trying to get and let you do things. So, way back when, and you want to provide them something too. I think that's important. It's not just what you're getting out of it. hey, I want to cover this because it'll give you coverage on this. Like, I think that's important too. It has to be a two-way street. It can't just be, I don't know what specifically you'd be interested in, but like from my perspective, when I was writing, right, like you don't approach an editor and say, I want a byline. You approach them and say, hey, I can give you coverage of this event that will help your publication. I think that's probably a better way to do it, and it's not dishonest either. Like, if you're going to do a good job, you're going to give them coverage of something they might not have had otherwise.
Did you write for the Wit when you were here?
I did not.
Really?
Yeah, I just, honestly, I didn't have a lot of time. I wasn't opposed to it. I think I wrote one story for the Wit. That was the one thing, getting back to the 2 years I was here. If I had 4 years here, maybe I would have. By the time I got here, I was already doing radio. Then I was doing internships. I was stringing for some local papers. So kind of ran out of time to write for the Wit.
Okay, very good. Go ahead, Ian.
So I know it's not a huge part of your job. We've kind of talked about your connections with players and stuff. How do you go about, kind of what's the biggest advice you give for a new journalist for how to get like sources for breaking news, rumors, and stuff like that? That's more of the behind the scenes that is like, it's very like private in between like a reporter and the source.
Yeah, there's a few ways, and the first is, I'll keep going back to showing up. The more you're around, the more comfortable people become with you, the more they realize they can trust you with information. Now, you see like the big news breakers in professional leagues. The reason that whole system works is because they have information to give too. So they become kind of like information brokers in a way, which is not honestly what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to gain information that I think can bolster my coverage of the team. So it's about building that trust for me. It's about knowing when to ask. Sometimes you get an ask, right? Like, this player or coach, I can't bother them every single day. So if I have something I need and it's worthwhile, I'm going to burn it on that. And so I kind of pick my spots. So yeah, you also feel it out a little bit. Like, it's important to just have normal human interactions with people, and if they trust you, they'll start to tell you stuff.
You never really shared how football, I guess, was it the Texans that got you football, or were you kind of broad and
Yeah,
do a bunch of different sports? Or
It was actually the lockout. So it was 2011 when the Eagles were working out in Marlton, which is where I'm from. They were working out like the local field, and
by the Blue Barn.
The Blue Barn, yeah. And Andy Schwartz was our editor at the time. I just said, hey, let me go cover this. No one else wants to cover it. It's just these guys are just working out. So I went up there, and it was very funny because at the beginning it was, Michael Vick and Deshaun Jackson and all the star players. And I joke with Jason Avant now, who's our coworker, that by the end of it, it was Mike Kafka throwing the Jason Avant, and I was just the only guy there watching it every day. But that was my start in it, and actually I got a big break from that because one day Donovan McNabb showed up, and McNabb had already been traded to Washington at that point. So it was kind of a big story that he was working out with his previous team. So I happened to be there, and he didn't want to talk, and I was like, Donovan, please give me something. He gave me a quote, ran with the story. But that was my first time covering football, proved that I could do it a little bit. Once they went back to training camp at Lehigh, they said, all right, you earned this, you can get some reps. So I would drive to and from Lehigh every day, which is a long drive. But I started covering it that way, and then during the week I'd go like once a week. So I just built up my reps, and then once I got to Houston, I was full-time on the beat.
Again, it goes back to you went there all the time to when they were in Marlton training at the Blue Barn. And it goes back to what you were saying, just show up, just go.
Yeah.
And then here you have Donovan McNabb showing up. Yeah. Like, if you're not there every
I'm
day.
the only one there.
Yeah. Very interesting. Go ahead, Sean.
What went right last year and what's going wrong with the Eagles this year?
What's going on with the Eagles? Come on, Dave. Everybody wants you to solve the problem. What's going on? What's
they
the
can't
problem?
solve it. I think there's a lot of issues. Defensively, I think they're missing some of the guys they lost. I think they have some young players in key spots who will probably get better. We'll see how long it takes. On offense, they have a lot of issues that have popped up before this season. They're not like they're all new issues, but the new issue is they can't run the football. And that is a very big problem because everything they do is dictated on running the ball. So If the O-line gets healthy, they can run the football a little bit better. I think it would go a long way.
How long is Landon Dickerson out?
It's an ankle, so maybe this week, maybe next week, but the bye week's coming up in 2 weeks, so hopefully he'll be healthier. Cam Jurgens is getting healthier from the back. Lane has been healthy for the last couple weeks. That's a nice boost, but the O-line's not up to par right now, and that matters.
There is no alpha in the NFL right now. There's no team that's dominant, is there? Bills have 2
there's
losses.
A lot of parity, for sure.
People are saying. I saw ESPN today say the Chiefs are an 11% favorite. 11% they're the favorite to win the Super Bowl in the odds. They're 3-3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think.
And by the way, lost to the Eagles.
They get the benefit of the doubt a little bit because they just end up there every year. I think the Eagles have one of the more talented rosters still, so I think they're in the mix still.
Wow. All right. Oh, wow. Now everybody wants to go right here.
Were you surprised that Darius Smith retired?
Yes, that changed my day a little bit. That's another thing with covering the NFL is luckily I was home today. If I'm not home, I'm working from wherever I am. If I'm at the supermarket, if I'm out for a walk or something, it's there's a 24/7 aspect to this. And yeah, I was surprised today.
Well, he came in and just said,
Yeah, he informed the team this morning
I know,
that he was
but
retiring. Yeah, from everything I've learned so far is it was a personal decision, not based on the Eagles. I don't know a ton about it yet. I'm going to try to find out more. But, yeah, these things there's always surprises. And that's kind of the fun part of the job, but it is like, yeah, if I'm doing something, like right now, if my phone rings and something crazy happens, on me to figure it out.
Well, we can do it here at Pizza with Pros. Everybody will see Dave Zangaro do his job right here. So if the phone's, if that phone was buzzing constantly, we might have to pick it up.
Maybe at least look at it. Yeah.
Just go behind the curtain right here. All right, let's do. Go ahead, Logan.
What was the most surprising moment that you've had to cover so far? What about Zedarius Smith?
Surprising. It goes back to early. When I covered the team in 2012, there were 2. That was a wild training camp, but I was at Lehigh when Mike Patterson, defensive tackle, had what was it? It was a brain AVM. They basically went down in the middle of practice. They had to bring the ambulance on the field, took him off the field. And that was the first moment where I realized, this is a pretty brutal business because, the ambulance is barely on the street and they're practicing again. That was a wild one. And then that was also the summer Andy Reid's son died. So I had to go and cover that funeral, which is not, there are a lot of fun aspects of the job. That wasn't one of them. Being up there, waiting outside of a funeral home, and that's not a situation where you push, but open for people to come over and talk to you about it. That was a rough summer.
I went to that funeral, and a lot of people didn't get in, right?
Yeah.
If all the parking lot in the back, a lot of people didn't get in.
It was,
but Andy came down and outside and went to greet a lot of people, to his credit. But let's end on this note. Who's winning the Super Bowl? You're a football authority.
Yeah. There's so much parity right now. At the beginning of the season, I probably would have said the Eagles. I'd probably backing off that a little bit. I still think they have plenty of time to turn it around.
Who scares you the most? I'm not scares you because you don't care.
Yeah.
But what team is out there that has the most? Is it Tampa? Is it? By the way, do you believe in Indianapolis?
Yeah. We're not new in this season. They've been doing it for a while. I believe in Shane Steichen. I think he's a really good coach. Probably the Bills still. I think they have a really good roster. They've been a little banged up, but they have the quarterback in place, and that matters. But you're right about there being parity. I do want to hit on something that you mentioned,
sure,
if we can, that I don't care.
Go ahead.
Which is something that I'm surprised I wasn't asked. The line between fan and journalist, because it's something there. The lines have blurred quite a bit in recent years, and I think that's okay. I think there are different ways to cover things, and there's a place for fans to have a voice, and that's okay. That's not the way I cover it. I want to be a journalist first. I want to be honest. I don't know how I could cover a team if I really cared about it, I think it would drive me nuts. So that's the way I go about it. But there are routes for more fandom in it. I think that's okay. Like, I've come around on that. Back when I started, I was like, no, there's no place for being a fan and covering the team. Like, you have to keep it separated. And I realize that's for me, and that's like more traditional, and that's good. But it's okay to be a fan and want to listen to what other fans have to say. I think there's.
I mean, like
there's
sports
something
talk
to it.
radio, though, there's some that are openly saying,
Mhm.
you know, rooting for the Eagles to win.
Yeah.
Different than a role that you would take as a beat reporter.
Sure, and like I've come around on learning that like those can coexist. I think sometimes I wish it was easier to label, and it was easier for people to differentiate between them. And I think that's just people don't know the business, and why would they? They're not in it. I wish that was easier to differentiate, but I've really come around on like understanding that there's just that's why they make different flavors of ice cream. Like you're allowed to have different ways to do it.
Let's give Dave Zangaro a round of applause.